All right, well, I always, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to come in and talk to you guys every single year. So I definitely thank all your SMDEP administrators and program directors and people that fit into the schedule. Even though I've been begging my good friend Dr. Jackson for 2 hours because I'm very loquacious and I like to talk, I get an hour every day, so if there's moments where I look at the time and I panic and I start rambling 100 miles or words a minute, I'm trying to squeeze 2 to 3 hours of opinion and lecture into an hour, 50 minutes, I think, 10 minutes of Q&A. You guys are talking about some great topics when I walked in. I hope you guys are all having fun. My name is LeRoy Horton. I'm a practicing dentist. I graduated from the University of Washington in 2007. What does that mean? Okay, a lot of you guys may or may not know what a dentist does. There's what a typical general dentist does. There's what the specialists do. And I've kind of found a niche somewhere on that spectrum where my specialty is things like IV sedation, wisdom tooth surgery, implants, sinus lifts, reconstruction, and so forth. I own 2 practices right now. Me and a former actual SMDEPer, the now Dr. Marcus Rose, are going to be purchasing a 3rd clinic I usually do a surgical lecture where I show surgical videos and talk about what we do, how we do it, and so forth to kind of set up dentistry. This year we're going to do something a little bit different, but I want to give you an idea of what it is that I do now. Okay? So we're going to breeze through about 30-45 seconds through a case of mine. So the big thing in implant dentistry now, let me start my time here, are surgical implants and attaching either single crowns to the implants or dentures. Okay? So if anyone has a squeezy stomach, it's about to get graphic for the next minute. Okay? Here we have a patient, no teeth on the bottom. We got to fix that. Our surgery here exposes the bone. We shape the bone to make it ideal for the implants to be placed. We pre-drill our holes. Okay, I'm going to back up just for a second. So, this is your exercise number 1, okay? This is a professional presentation. You are future professionals. So, giggling, comments, wows, oohs, cringes, you got to keep them so that only you can hear them. Okay? Exercise number 1 in being a professional. Back to the lecture. We pre-drill our holes. We place our surgical implants in. Are you guys going to do a suture clinic? Are they going to do suture clinics this year? If you do, this will give you some context as to where you use sutures, because you guys are probably using bananas. And I teach a lot of this throughout the year. Here's an x-ray of the bone. We've got our 4 implants placed in the bone. We add our locator attachments after about 3 or 4 months of healing. We build the patient a denture with these insertion units that are going to snap onto those locators you saw sticking out. And the patient now has teeth and their dentures that snap in. That way he can eat an apple, corn, and a cob. All the things that a traditional patient with dentures could not do, because a denture is traditionally stained with suction power. So if you bite on something hard in the front, it will tear it back off. All right? Now with these implants snapped in, he can pretty much eat anything he wants. Quality of life is increased. Nutrition, especially for the elderly, is increased, and everyone feels good at the end of the day. So, the question is, what is your path to get to from where you are here today, and you guys are already on somewhat of a path, just by virtue of being here, but what is your path to get to where you want to be? Kim, right? Where do you want to be? ER physician. What is the path to, what's going to be your path to ER physician? Briefly.
Well, figure out what school I'm going to, because I did my 2 years at community college and transfer, and then apply to medical school, and then go to medical school, and then do my residency.
Everybody kind of agree with that? Wrong. I asked you, what is your path? That is the standardized academic on paper path, okay? Not that I'm trying to single you out, but what I'm trying to get, the heart of my story, the picture I'm trying to paint today, is that all you guys are going to have individual paths. There's going to be some crisscross, there's going to be some overlap, but at the end of the day, each of you has an individual story, you have an individual background that you come from, and your particular path is not going to look like anybody else's, okay? So now how do you get to where you want to be from where you were, let's say, in high school, okay? And what I'm going to do is paint this narrative. Now that you've gotten a glimpse, a snapshot of what I do, okay, for a living, how did I get there? Okay, I know you guys have been talking about more community health, public health. I walked into a great conversation about was a stereotype threat and microaggressions and so forth. What does the 10,000 foot view mean, right? Analytics and data can tell you pretty much with a very high level of accuracy what you are likely to be involved in, what you are likely to have as far as health problems, all depending on where you're from, your area code, your zip code, who your parents are, what racial background you have, what ethnic background you have, okay? But what does that mean? All right, if there's a statistic that says 7 out of 10 of you are going to have this, what does that say about you as an individual? Does it say anything? Or is that just a 10,000 foot view? Now, the 10,000 foot view can be great if I'm working in the arena of public health and I'm trying to allocate resources and strategies to address needs that a certain population has, right? But what about the other side of that? You guys were kind of talking about that when I was here before. Okay, the 10,000 foot view also includes a lot of racial stereotypes, ethnic stereotypes that eventually can not only become ascribed to you, they can become ingrained in you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is paint the 10,000 foot view, which is going to talk about what type of obstacles you have, where you're from, does that or should that even matter? And how should you frame how you view yourself in the context of what you want to be? All right, the 10,000 foot view versus you, okay? And I'm going to tell this story through personal, I don't know if I can really call it allegory, but it's going to be a personal testament that involves the 10,000 foot view of me. So who are you? Who am I? Okay? I thought I knew who I was. You all think you have a good, strong sense, and I was a college kid that thought I knew everything and thought that my personality was set and I knew how the world works and I had a specific view of the world. You realize 10 years later just how much you didn't know. Okay? But you are who you think you are right now. All right? And I'm here to tell you that you can be put in a lot of situations where you will not act the way you would have guessed you would have acted. Okay? So who are you, or who am I? What does the media say that you are? What's your name? Johanna. Johanna? Johanna? All right, Johanna, you're me. Okay? You are an immigrant kid from Greece. And you have a heavy accent. You came here knowing heavy metal music and Michael Jackson. You had Baywatch, 90210, and what was it? General Hospital growing up. That's what you know of the United States. Okay? You come here when you're 13. What does the media say about you? Okay? So I'm asking you questions. I'm not necessarily looking away for you to answer. Okay? I want to personalize this for you. This is you right now. Put your mind in being this person who we're talking about. You come here in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s. The only images you see of yourself are what you see on this peculiar thing called black entertainment television that you've never heard of. So you see music videos. They do play Tap a Smiley for like 30 minutes a day, but besides that, it's music videos. Tupac, Snoop Dogg, and Dr. Dre. are the prominent figures that you see in pop media. If you're from the West Coast, back then, and I'm probably dating myself, but you know about X-Rated and Brother Lynch and SIBO and the whole Garden Block. That is your media that's influencing you, given your neighborhood and the demographic you live around. The media says you are one thing, but it's also telling you what you are not, right? Because you're not seeing doctors and lawyers and teachers and professionals on TV. Hell, you're not even seeing construction workers and plumbers that are black on TV. Okay? So you're getting two messages here. It's telling you what you are, but it's also at the same time telling you what you're not. Okay? Now think about what that does to you, because you're a 13-year-old kid that came to this country not really having a true identity of who you are, because you were the only black kid anywhere where you were from. And you knew you were different because everyone around you, even your family members, would talk about, over there, you talk about the gypsies. That's even used as a derogatory term. Arabians is what they call black Africans in Greece. And you're confused because you're pretty much the same color shade as these people that everyone else talks about. So you don't have a true identity of who you are because you're a little confused coming where you're from. But you come here, and these are the messages you're getting from the media. Okay? What does the school system say you are? What's your name? Yes. David. David. You're in school now. Okay? Here's a couple stories of what happens to you, David, in school. You're jumped by skinheads one day who have been picking on you for about a month. Okay? Now, to your benefit, you've been doing martial arts since you were very young, so you kind of come out on the better end of that. But the next day, their other friends jump you again, the teachers intervene. Next thing you know, you're in the office because you're being accused of being a leader of a black gang. Okay? This is the school system that's telling you, who's essentially fresh off the plane, with no black friends, not in tune with black culture, that you must be the leader of a black gang in a school that probably has 12 black kids. And this is the school system telling you that. All right? Fast forward to high school. You're a little bit more acclimated now because you're tired of not being socially socially included. You're tired of not necessarily being able to build rapport with the girls because they're seeing and liking what everyone else is kind of doing, and you're an outsider. But you're in high school, and the big thing now is gang prevention. So if you and the other black kids are standing in a circle cracking your mama jokes, the police officer walks up and says, "Hey, you guys are not allowed to aggregate together," because that's gang related. Okay? At the time, LL Cool J made the one pant leg up popular. So everybody was trying to do that. Security guard comes to you and says, "Hey, you can't do that. Put that pant leg down because you're gang related doing it." Okay? If you're Mexican, you couldn't wear a hairnet. And that was popular time with all the Mexicans. Security guards would make them take their hairnets off. Why? Because you're gang related. But you're a good kid, somewhat now, because you kind of acclimated and changed your ways. You weren't a straight A student, but you got made fun of for that. So now you, David, are getting into a little tussle with one of your best friends over a girl. And then you're in the office spending the next 2 hours trying to convince the principal this was not a gang-related fight. You guys kind of get that theme here? Your whole childhood, you're already getting the media everywhere you go. The radio, the television, you're at home. What percentage of your day is that? Okay, we don't need a true number, but we can kind of visualize that. Now you go to school, you spend 6 or 7 hours a day at school. And you're being told time and time again, things you do are gang related, ways you act are gang related, ways you dress is gang related. What are you going to start thinking about yourself? Is everybody getting where I'm going with that? If you're always, it doesn't matter what you think you are, or how you feel about what you are. If you're from the area that I was at, and your dad wasn't there because he left you a number of years ago, and when he was there, he was a belligerent alcoholic that abused your mom. You've got no one to give you perspective in all these messages that you're getting. So the 10,000-foot view of who you are and where you're from, what color you are, what ethnic background you are, has told you thus far, in just a couple of years that you're here, that if you want to be a powerful, strong black man, you have to conform to what the media says a powerful, strong black man is. If you want to be accepted, or if you want to be in a school system and be accepted socially, you definitely can't excel academically, because then your social points go down, per your experience, David. Okay, now this is just one reality. This is not saying this applies to everybody in here, but this is one reality of one little boy. Given all that, what does your subconscious say you are? Okay? We all know, Carlos Mencia, I think, had a good joke about this, talking about, certain questions work in certain areas, but don't work in other areas. Right? Now, if you're in Bellevue and someone asks you where you're from, tell where you're from, right? If you're on the hilltop in Tacoma and someone walks up on you and says, where are you from? What does that mean?
Why are you here?
That means you got to create some distance because something's about to go down. Okay? So your subconscious, when all you're getting is inundated with messages that are negative from that 10,000-foot view, is going to create who you are, what you do, how you react to situations, what you feel you need to do in order to conform to everything that you're being told time and time again. Now, what does the legal system say you are? Okay, we already know, statistically, you're going to be portrayed a certain way. That's very negative in the media. Academically, you're probably going to be more likely to be suspended, expelled, more likely to be put in a special ed class, more likely to be recommended as ADD. There's going to be a lot of things you're going to be more likely to be told that you are because of who you are and what you look like. Your subconscious, in a lot of ways, is validating that. Okay? The legal system, even if you're not in jail, who should I pick on here? You, behind you. All right. Now, you're in high school, all right? You get pulled over by some police officers, and earlier in the day, you were playing softball at the park. So in your trunk, you've got baseball mitts and a baseball bat. When you get pulled over, you don't really know why. But the officer says, I smell weed. You know what that means. That means he's fishing for a reason to take you out your car and search your car. Okay? Next thing you know, you're sitting on the corner with your hands behind your back, on the curb, sorry, not the corner. Hands behind your back, your car's being searched. Then you're being grilled as to why you have a baseball bat in your trunk. Okay? Totally bypass the fact that you had baseball mitts and some cleats in there, but you had a baseball bat in your trunk. And he's telling you, I know what you've been doing with this. Where you guys going? Where you guys headed? You guys looking to get in some trouble? The police, who on the street is for the most part the ultimate level of authority, is now telling you that despite what you know you were doing, he's telling you who you are, what you were about to do, and what you probably did. Okay? Now, if everywhere you go, you hear the same exact messages over and over and over, pounded into your head, what are you going to start doing? You're going to stop believing it, right? Okay? If I can't get any respect in the school system when I'm walking around, if I can't get any respect in a store because I'm getting followed and I'm always being looked at and dismissed, but then on the street, if you catch me on South Tacoma Way, all of a sudden, if it's nighttime, you have a certain look of fear in your eyes. I demand respect in that interaction, don't I? Right? So if you take someone and you take away their ability to feel like they are a productive citizen, a productive kid. Let's take away this citizen, a kid, a 16-year-old kid. And all you're telling them is they're this, at some point they're going to say, okay, if this is what I am, well, I'm going to be the baddest version of this you've ever seen. So this is what I was. Okay? Skinny little black kid from Greece. These are two of my cousins. Peculiarly, I'm a month older than him. His name is Stelio. I was taller than him at some point. He's like 6'8" right now. Very unfair. But this is what I became. Thanks to the 10,000-foot view of me, and my circumstances, where I was from. And I don't say that to absolve myself of any responsibility, because I've owned what I've done. I've never forgotten what I've done. Okay? But I'm also introspective enough to see how I transformed from this. Was I an aggressive kid? Yeah, in sports. Was I bad? Everybody loved me. But I come here because my mom thought that we'd have better opportunity because there were no black people there, and we'd have more cultural support here. And this is what I ended up with. July 8th, 1997. I was still 16 years old. To my luck, July 4th, they just passed a law that said any crime committed with a handgun or a firearm, and you're 16 and older, you're automatically tried as an adult. So imagine my luck 4 days after that. I, however, got lucky. And also I had this weird personality trait where I knew from a very young age I had a sense of self where I felt like if I didn't like my circumstances, it was totally within me to change them. Okay? So I knew the day I got out of jail, and I didn't spend a ton of time in jail, but the day I got out of jail, and they kept all my clothes as evidence, and gave me this paper-thin jumpsuit that was way too small, so I went to here, and to here, and it zipped up right here, no underwear, no nothing, and some jailhouse slippers. And they let me out down in the streets of Seattle. My mom's in Greece visiting, she's not back yet, and they tell me I can use my bracelet as a 24-hour bus pass. And I'm walking through downtown in a paper jumpsuit and jailhouse slippers, okay, unshaven, hair's a mess, and everyone's just staring at me. I knew that I obviously was not as hardcore as I thought I was, because this life right here is not for me. Okay? And I knew on that whole long bus ride back that I was going to have to bury this snippet of my life. I was going to have to bury it under a mountain of nothing but positive contribution to this world. And so I decided essentially to create my own biography. I got tired of being told who I was and listening to messages of who I was and movies of who I'm supposed to be and what it means to be a prideful, strong, standing on his own two black man. And I decided I'm just going to create my own biography. I know where I want to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And I'm going to do everything in my power to create that vision. And you cannot erase your past, especially if your past involves hurting other people. You owe it to the people that you hurt to not erase it, to own it. Okay? You have to own it, you have to draw strength from it, you have to make amends for it. If you took 5 out of the pot because you were being selfish and you were committing crimes and not being a good citizen and not being a good human in this world, It's your responsibility to put 10, 15, 20 back in that pot. So you can't bury all your bad chapters. And I knew on that bus ride home that what I wanted to do was make this snippet of, 1.5, 2 years of my life where I was acting really bad. And we were wilding out. Okay? I wanted to make that a needle in a haystack so that no one would even think about it, no one would find it, and everybody, if they even heard of it, they would be just as surprised as I'd want them to be. You can be creative to subvert the system. Let me go back a little bit. What does burying the bad chapters mean? Okay? I came out, and we ended up moving to Tacoma after that, and I decided I'm going to be a part of everything positive that I could potentially be. So if you look at my Mount Tacoma, anybody here from Tacoma? All right, Mount Tacoma, any people have been here? No?
Brother was there.
Oh, did you? All right, so I knew if you open up that yearbook, you'll see my picture spread across the whole damn yearbook. Science club, forensics club, drama club, school newspaper, basketball team, track team, cross-country team, Afro pageant. I was in everything, all right? Because I knew that I wanted to build such a strong resume that by the time someone even got to that little snippet of my life, they probably just got tired of reading. Hopefully they got tired of reading halfway through the positive stuff. But I finished that year and a half of high school, doing so well, they actually announced me as valedictorian. They hadn't seen the earlier transcripts. And so I get put into the office maybe an hour or two after they made the radio announcement for the speaker announcement. We're like, well, you know, we're sorry. We saw that you had a 4.0 the whole time you were here. And we didn't see your other transcripts, but you got kicked out of school, suspended and expelled, and your grades suffered. I was like, I understand. I was waiting for that. But I took the accolades for that hour or two as everyone. But then I graduate from Mount Tacoma and I go on to Pacific Lutheran University, which is a small private school out in Spanaway. I knew I wanted to be in healthcare, but even at Pacific Lutheran, I'm part of an organization called Black PLU. We're talking to middle schoolers, we're helping at food banks. Everything that I can do to increase my positive resume and bury my past, I knew I had to do. I had that intention. And that's the one thing that, if there's anything about me, there's nothing special about me. I'm not necessarily that smart. I'm not necessarily, you know, a whiz kid with a photographic memory or a super talented artist. But when I put my mind to something, I get obsessed. And this was an obsession of mine. Day in, day out, I woke up trying to make that happen. What can I add to this list today to help bury that snippet in the past? I decided, I figured out what I wanted, I figured out by when I wanted it, and I woke up every day intent on making that happen. You got to be creative to subvert the system. If you have a criminal record, and in my case, even though I was a juvenile, I was tried as an adult, there's a felony on my record. What does that mean? What obstacles are you going to have when you go out applying for jobs? Applying for financial aid? Right? Everybody's heard about, or I hope so, you know, the Ban the Box initiatives that have been going on, right? You can fall on either side of that. In the middle somewhere. I was lucky because we were in a time where, in order to subvert the system, I didn't have to do much. Right now everything is digital, so it might be a little harder. But on an application where it says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Yada, 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 yada. Yes or no? I love that shit right. Okay? I'm not lying. Well, what I'm banking on, because every time I turned in my resume, I had 3 or 4 pages on top of that form that you got to fill out per business. I had my cover letter, I had my resume that showed all my accomplishments, accolades and my involvements. I had a letter of recommendation. Sometimes I had two. Sometimes one letter of recommendation was multiple pages. And I stapled that intentionally to the front of the actual resume. Because the felony question is usually on page 2 or the back of page 1. So what did I tell you? They're going to get tired of reading how great of a person I am, goddammit. And when they get to that, never once did anyone ask me, hey, you left this blank. They either didn't bother, didn't catch it, or if they did catch it, I can only assume they just assumed it was a no. Right? So you have to be creative in how you subvert the system. All right? I'm not going to bore you with, chapters of Michelle Alexander's explanations of, how the system is structured to keep certain populations down. We know that exists. My job as an individual is not to cry about it. I got to subvert that. Now, once I get to where I'm at, I can go back and I can address those systemic, intentional structures designed to keep you down. But I can't address it unless I first beat it. Because if I haven't beat the system, but I sure love addressing the system, I'm just a complainer. You understand what I'm saying? You are who you say you are. And that's something that I decided when I was riding on that long bus ride in the middle of summer, lonely, in my paper jumpsuit, and everybody just looking at me in those jailhouse slippers. And I hear people like, dang, they did my man wrong. Could have gave my man some pants or something. I had to be who I said I was. Okay? Now, what did my neighborhood say that I was? My neighborhood, it was low-income share housing. Everybody around me was either drug dealing or repping some set. Okay? I did a little bit of all the above. All right? My girlfriend at the time, her aunt was a big-time crack dealer. She used to use me because I had a car. I'd run little deliveries for her. The homies in the neighborhood, and we had this very mixed neighborhood, so we had ice lords in the neighborhood, we had BGDs, we had 7-4 moving Crips, okay? But at some point, you're going to put in work. Because even if you're not put on to a gang, if you're just friends with people from the gang, and people see you, you're automatically lumped in that group, okay? And everyone around me had a great idea of what they wanted me to be. And I got tired of that. I had to decide who I was. I didn't want to be what the school system said I was. I had a teacher sit me down and say, this is how she prefaced the conversation that followed. I know that you're a young black male and all young black males are angry. Everything else after that just turns into total bullshit. You can't preface your conversation like that, right? But that's what you're hearing. And I didn't want to be what she said I was. I ended up doing that because I got tricked into thinking that, all right, well, if you think I'm this, I'm going to be the biggest, baddest this you've ever seen. How you like me now? Thinking I'm doing something to her. Was I? No. So you are who you say you are. And everybody here comes from circumstances, comes from a certain background, a family history. There's pain in everybody's background if you look deep enough and far enough. And you need to define who you are in the context of how you became you today. And if you don't like what you think you are right now, it is your responsibility, it is your ability to change that. And if a little black kid from Tacoma with tattoos on his neck and arms and chest and back can go from what you saw up there to being licensed and accredited and trusted by people of all walks of life to essentially cut their faces open, can you imagine what kind of trust that is? I was thinking about that today. you know, I had some surgeries in the morning. I was doing a 16-year-old girl who were taking out her wisdom teeth, and I had her under IV sedation, and wisdom teeth were very impacted, and the mom had brought her. And I'm just thinking to myself, imagine that level of trust that this human being, this autonomous person, is bringing you their child and saying, here, put them to mere sleep. Okay, that's a sedation joke with Dr. Jackson again. To mere sleep and cut their faces open. And you'll be working next to major arteries in the jaw, major nerves in the jaw, that if you hit or nick or disturb, you can cause massive bleeding, you can cause infections, you can cause paresthesias and nerve damage. They're trusting you as future professionals to do all that. That's huge. You have to be who you say you are. And if that's what you want to be, that has to be reflected in everything you do every damn day. And yes, I speak strongly sometimes. But you know what? I've been through this system before. I know you're going to get a fair share of your coddlers. You want to take a gap year? You want to find yourself? Are you sure this is what you want? That's great. I'm not going to fight that because it's a cold world out there. And anywhere where you're going to find some TLC, someone that cares about you and is truly here to support you, I'm fine with it. But I'm here to be on the other side. And I'm whispering in your other ear. And I'm like, what the hell are you waiting for? Don't you understand there is a system designed to keep you from being what you want to be? Whether it's based on your race, ethnicity, whether it's based on your gender and your sexual orientation, how you identify yourself, there's a system in place based on your income level, on your state of your citizenship. Like, do you not understand how serious this is? This is me in your ear getting you hyped up. Okay? You are behind enemy lines, and you have to wake up figuratively, okay, of course, but you have to wake up every morning when you have a test that you know you got to take, and you know 3 months ahead of time. You don't wait until 2 months and 3 weeks to start studying. Your intent is success. And you have to have that militant mentality about that success. Because otherwise, every system that's been in place to hold you back is going to succeed in holding you back. You are who you say you are. It's not for me to define you or Dr. Jackson to define you or your 10th grade school teacher or the police officer or the judge to define you. It's your responsibility to define you. You belong where you want to belong. Okay? What's your name?
Delana.
Say again?
Delana.
Delana. You're on your dental school interview today. Okay? Now, you were a little creative because you were a poor student, so you couldn't really afford. The closest you think you had to dress pants is a pair of Dickies. Everybody know what Dickies are? I just dated myself, right? Alright, because Dickies was a thing. You could wear that at a school dance and it looks like you're kind of dressed up. You got to be creative for your interview. Alright? Now, you don't have any money. I mean, you work, but you don't have a lot of money. So, your wife, who's also creative, tells you, let's go to Nordstrom. You go to Nordstrom, you get yourself a $1,200 suit, some $200 shoes, a tie. Now, you're looking good in that interview, okay? You look like you belong there. You ain't got the money, though. The very next day, you take all that shit back. You gotta be creative to subvert the system. But at your interview, you sit down. And at the time, I don't know how to do it now, but you're in your little interview group. This is before everything starts, and you're in Dean Steiner's waiting area. And you look around, and this is what you see. Pretty Asian girl. Pretty Asian girl. Pretty Asian girl. Handsome Asian man. Handsome Asian man. A Backstreet Boy. Okay? You got all those stereotypes, the video that you guys saw, you know. So what do you automatically assume when you see all the Asian students?
They're gonna pick them.
Why? Because they're extremely intelligent, right? You're trained for that, but that's what you're thinking at the time. Unbeknownst to you, the Backstreet Boy ends up becoming one of your best friends in middle school. He's a good-looking white kid, tall, spiky hair. How could you not love him? He looks awesome. Okay? And you, for a minute, falter. And you think to yourself, once again, I'm a little black kid from Tacoma. I got a tattoo all over my body. I got a little afro. I definitely sound like I'm not the most properly speaking person. They're not going to choose me when they got this wealth of talent and intelligence and character. Because of course you can tell character off of what someone looks like, right? No, you can, but people do it all the time. Okay? But I had to boss up. And I said, you know what? No, I'm not doing that. I'm looking good. I did good on my tests. I deserve to be here. And goddamn it, every person I talk to, that sense that I belong, where I want to belong, is going to exude out of every pore in my body. Because if I walk up to someone and say hi and shake their hand, but I don't feel like I belong, what are they going to see? This kid lost. Right? If I want people to accept me, to know that I am deserving to be in that position, in that particular space, at that particular point in time, I have to believe in myself. And yeah, so you faltered for a minute, but you bossed up and was like, you know what? I'm killing this interview. And out the gate, I killed the interview. All right? It turns out that one of the endodontist I shadowed happened to be, Dean Steiner's, Dean Steiner was his mentor. So that kicked off the conversation right there. That whole 30, 40 minutes we had when we were talking to the dean of the school, it was a conversation between me and him. I don't think he really had anything to do with the decision process, but I was feeling good at that moment that I was rocking it. Okay? You kind of have to know how the admissions committee works. In my interview, and this is where when you talked about stereotype threats and microaggressions and all that, one of my interviewers, I only have one actually, my interviewer says, looks at my paper and says, oh, you're from Greece. Funny, I don't hear a Greek accent. I hear a black accent, but not a Greek accent. Right? But she happens to be one of the sweetest teachers I know. I'm not going to hold her to that because I feel she had bad intentions. I don't think she had bad intentions. Sometimes people say awkward things with good intention, with good curiosity. Okay. Another example, quick example, where keeping it real can go wrong. All right. First day of pre-clinic in dental school, 80-year-old white instructor comes up to me, leans over, looks at me for like a good 10 seconds. I'm just like, and he's like, so, what do you like being called? Negro, Afro-American? I just look at him, it's like, this is where keeping it real could go wrong, right? What I decided in that moment was that, you know what? This socially awkward, unexposed, older man's way of breaking the ice. I could just tell off his vibe, off his look, off his tone, there was no ill intention there, right? So am I going to jump down his throat? No. I'm just going to say, you can call me LeRoy. That's my name. And he kind of chuckles like, oh yeah, I guess I did just put my foot in my mouth. Right? So that's a whole different lecture and conversation. So there are all these things like stereotype threats and microaggressions. There's times when you got to keep it real, and there's also times when you got to realize you can't fault someone for being unexposed and being ignorant. Right? If someone's never seen black hair before and they see an afro for the first time in their life, and they say, "Can I touch it?" After already touching it? It's a natural curiosity, right? I'm not gonna put my beret on and cock the shotgun and go on Philippine no. Different discussion. There are multiple paths to every destination. So Kim, this is where I showed you out in the beginning, not to put you on the spot, but to say there's a way to get to everywhere. But for every person, that way is going to be absolutely different. My path is not the stereotypical path of what you see in dental or medical school. All right? I'm an immigrant child born into an abusive household that came to the United States and was living out of other people's houses, that's been working since the age of 14, cleaning bars and restaurants with my mom, taking care of my little brother who's 10 years younger than me, got in trouble with the law. I was on some real hood stuff for a while, realized I wasn't as hard as I thought I was, and now I'm putting people to near sleep and cutting their faces. And that is going to be you one day. Hopefully it's every single one of you. And your path may be non-traditional. Your path may be short and condensed. Your path may be extended. There's nothing wrong with the gap year, even though you'll hear me talk strongly about it. There's nothing wrong with it if you need it. But a lot of my friends that took their gap year are on their gap year still. Okay? Every path is going to be different. That doesn't make it wrong. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it good or bad. It just makes it yours. Own it. Create it. If you don't like what you created, tear that shit up. Rewrite it again. Because you create your own destiny. You don't have to be a statistic. That 10,000-foot view of you, the negative one, or of your population, means nothing when it comes to you. Right on time. I'm so proud of myself. So that leaves us about 10 plus minutes for Q&A. It can be on anything, doesn't matter. Hit me. Yes, sir.
We're going to ask, so when you're referring to subversion, is that necessarily like deception in a sense? I mean, you kind of said that you looked like when you had your application and everything and all those letters and stuff. Was that in a sense like in a way to deceive people in order to become where you are today?
I think deception is a strong word, but it becomes what you decide you want to become. I can't say I've never lied in my lifetime, because I'm not an angel. I tried my best to subvert the system in that sense, not by lying, but by omitting. And you can judge that. You can judge that as you will. But the intentions were not malicious.
So is it more of a conscious question to ask oneself on whether or not they are going to be deceiving?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You control your intentions. It's a very good question. I'm gonna think about that tonight. I really like that question. Yes.
So you said you were like in prison for a while and then you got out. Sorry,
Jail.
Jail. Okay. So you
I
said,
can't claim no prison credit.
okay. So I was just wondering, what part of your personal mentality caused you to go a certain way, whereas other people who get out go in a different direction?
I don't know. And I've racked my brain about this. I know that when my dad was around, and when he was sober, he would always instill this thing in me of, you are better than everybody else. This great book, I can't remember, it's not the show, it's someone else who wrote it, that talks about the most successful coaches are often the ones that have a superiority complex, right? I just felt, if I saw someone do something, I can do that too. I still feel that to this day. If I see somebody doing something that I want to do, there's no reason why I can't do it and I can't do it better than them. And I always had that sense. That's the only thing I can really attribute it to, was the fact that, you know, my dad really drilled that into me when I was young. And I got lucky. You know, I was in a position where, you know, in full disclosure, you know, number one rule in the streets is ain't no snitching. All right? There's a parenthesis to that, though. This is my buddies in jail. So when I was in Seattle Juvie, I was locked up with all homeboys from the neighborhood. And I didn't snitch for a long time until they played the videotape of all my big homies, not just snitching on what I did, but putting all their dirt on me. So that parenthesis says, well, the first part is no snitching. The second part is, you snitch on me, then I'm snitching on you. Okay? I ain't going down for your dirt. Okay? And that's, you know, my situation was very unique because there's a lot of good, you know, brothers and sisters out there that have a lot of potential, the same abilities as I do, but they just didn't catch a break. You know, one of my closest friends, his name is Andrew, I took him on one of his first little runs that we used to call him. And we broke into the school, busted the candy machine, took all the candy out, went back to the neighborhood and sold the candy for 50 cents a piece. Okay, I took him with me. After I had my situation, we moved out of that neighborhood and went to Tacoma. He continued on that path. When him and two buddies are breaking into a house, the homeowner happens to be there. One of his buddies shoots and kills the homeowner. Now my buddy is in jail for 10 years in a felony murder case. And he just got out a few years ago. Okay? So not everybody is as lucky as I was. For me, it's not about I pulled myself out of this situation solely off my sweat and my bootstraps. There was a lot of luck. There was a lot of people that believed in me. The circumstances had to align tremendously because I am definitely the exception when it comes to special situations with the justice system. I think you had your hand up earlier, and I'll leave.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, first I want to comment on that last question, because I think I would caution people to ask about, like, well, where other people go wrong, because, like, as someone who's done extensive research in the prison system, I work with people in prison, and I was working in prison, like, it's set up for recidivism to just occur commonly over and over again. People, you know, you put it on your applications, you put it on your job applications, wherever you go, school applications, and you're not going to be able to really find many opportunities and resources, so that's like a part of the kind of thing, I guess, where you say you're lucky. But so I just wanted to comment on that question. But my other question is that as someone who said who has been through the system of jail and who has gone down this path of, like, you know, becoming a dentist, and now you work in what I would assume to be is like a decently paying job, how do you plan to kind of overcome the economic system of capitalism that feeds off the destruction of people like us and puts people that are in this room into places like that?
I'll have to write a book to answer that question.
Oh, great question.
Well, listen, I'll make a few brief comments and then I don't believe capitalism is all bad. I'm a businessman. I'm by definition a capitalist. I own a business, okay? I hire people. I believe anything in its purest form leads to excesses and abuses, whether it's capitalism, socialism, communism. I consider myself a burn bro, you know? I'm a social democrat at heart. I don't think I necessarily want to destroy capitalism, because I work damn hard, and I know, great example, I got one for you, and you can tell me what you think after. I work for a while at a community clinic, okay? I'm there with 3 other doctors, I'm young, I'm ambitious, so I'm doing everything. Hey, you do root canals, Dr. Horton? Hell yeah, I do root canals. Line me up, extractions, you know, wisdom teeth, I'll do anything. Because I'm young and I'm hungry, and I'm working in a clinic that serves a population that needs all these services. Well, the other 2 doctors were slightly older, a little more relaxed. Nah, I don't do root canals. You're a dentist. I don't take teeth out, but you're a dentist. I do small fillings and cleanings, right? We're working in the same clinic, seeing the same population with the same need, getting paid the same money. But I'm breaking my back. I'm sweating every day because I'm getting all the root canals and all the extractions, and they're sitting there cleaning teeth. There's got to be a system, a fair system, an equitable system, that does reward someone for working hard, or harder in comparison, being more ambitious in comparison. But at the same time, that system has to realize, like for me, right? I can't do what I do if I don't have someone that's willing to be an assistant at an assistant's wage long enough to be great at it, right? Because the cases I do is like 10% me, and the rest is divided amongst a great performing staff. So you can't have a system of all doctors or all millionaires. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I think, and like, well, I guess that I would just wonder, like, I guess, you know, because I was in capitalism, in the words of like a friend of mine, she said, functional extortion of like, you know, all these groups of people, anti-black, anti-queer, anti-trans, because you have to keep someone down if you want, you know, your money. But in your clinic, is there anything like, do you guys accept all ranges of health insurance? Do you accept Medicaid? Is there some sort of, if you're owning the clinic, do you have plans to maybe incorporate some percentage of people who might not have dental health insurance, or is it just catering to the population of people who have like, you know, the prime standard, like Aetna health plan or something like that?
Yes and no. So I do see all health insurances. We also started seeing actually Medicaid this year. A lot of the stuff that I do, my particular specialty, is not covered by Medicaid. Medicaid has very extremely limited coverage. You have to balance as a doctor, as a practitioner, as a professional. If you have, to get to that point of being a doctor or a clinician, you have some type of personal ambition, right? It's not just about helping people. You want to be good at what you do. Once you're good at what you do and there's like, hey, there's this extra skill set you can learn. If you're ambitious, I want to learn that too. I want to do this too. You want to continue to grow as an individual. What you realize is that things like Medicaid, it's actually what it's supposed to be. It's a safety net. The majority of stuff that we can do as dentists is not covered by Medicaid, especially for adults. All right? So you have to balance saving the world with being professionally happy with what you do long term. Okay? And I wish I had more time to talk to you specifically, because I know exactly where your mind is at, 'cause I was exactly there about 15 years ago. All right? But I promise you, remember this conversation and your questions. That's a great question. I want you to ask yourself that question 10, 15 years from now, when you're a doctor, nurse, anesthetist, whatever it is you're going to end up being in the healthcare field. Ask yourself that same question after you know how the system works. I guarantee it's going to be, your ideology is going to be slightly different. But great question.
What kind of advice do you have for someone who has someone in their life that seems to be not on the same kind of path that you seem to be on at one point in your life, but something similar, and they're at a point where you feel like, you know, this person is at a point where they can either start making really good decisions and really start doing good things for themselves, or you know, they could start going in a really poor direction as well. But you're in a situation where you can only do so much. What do you think is most important in respects to being that support system for that person? How would you approach it?
Not knowing the details of that, honestly, I would just say, you know, be a good friend or relative or significant other, whoever this friend is, but you can't compromise yourself if that person doesn't want it for themselves. You You know, and that's something that when you guys are right now, if you would have asked me 15 years ago, I was the poster child for public health, community health. I want to go out and save the world, and motorcycle ride through the mountains of South America and do all that stuff. What you need to realize at some point is that you cannot save the world unless you save yourself first. I can't save the world unless I save my mom first, because she held me down all those years. So I have the rest of my life to save the entire world. I've been doing it along the way. I can give you a long resume even after graduating of things that I've done, work that I've done with the VA, domestic violence groups and all that. Okay? I've done all that. But along the way, I had to prioritize. My mom put herself in debt and was working 3 or 4 jobs for me to do what I do. So the first thing I did is I went out and I made a damn paycheck, and then I stole all her mail and paid off her credit cards. And I set her up in my first house now. Okay? You have to save you. And when I say you, everybody that's a close relative, that's near and dear to you is part of you. So I'm inclusive of all that. Save you first, then you can save the world. Okay? Same thing when we're talking about community service. A lot of you guys are in that crucial period where you're going to be applying to medical or dental or at some health profession school, but you love being active. You love volunteering. Well, great. If you got a 4.0, volunteer the hell away. If you got a 2.9, but you're giving up 20 hours a week volunteering, or in your fraternity or sorority, or whatever you're doing, how are you going to be most effective saving the world? Before or after your degree? Go ahead, answer. After. Focus on that. Give as much as you can without sacrificing on your academics, because we live in a standardized world, and you know you're going to have to get standardized grades and take a standardized test. Beat the system, get in, get your degree, and then you can use your creative genius, and everybody in here is their own creative genius, to save the world. And you can affect more, do more, help more, the more you have an expertise. Regardless of what those letters after your name are. As long as you have an expertise, you will be more equipped to save the world. And that's, save the world, obviously, I'm using that metaphorically. Okay. Yes?
It's kind of a weird question, but I'm sure everyone's been asking it. So a few months ago, like probably a year ago or so, I got my wisdom teeth pulled. Now, from here to here,
Yes.
is no. Have you ever seen it come back, like the feeling, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I've had it happen. That's just part of the risk. Okay. You try your best as a clinician to be equipped with all the images, your cone beam CT, 3-dimensional images if that tooth is close to the nerve. Sometimes you don't even have to hit it. If while you're taking the tooth out, you compress it, that's enough to damage it. I've seen it come back. I've seen it not come back. I've seen patients that think it came back, but I'm guessing they probably just learned to live with it and work around it.
Yeah, I thought it did.
All right, so I got time for one more question, and I saw a hand up right there.
I just wanted to ask, for someone that wants to take a gap year,
Mhm.
can you expand on your thoughts on why it's a good idea?
If you feel you need it, by all means. If you're going to do something productive with it, by all means.
I'm going to jump in. This is something new that we've learned. In medicine, the gap year is absolutely advised at this point. I think you've heard from Harold Tights earlier this week. I think she may have addressed it, did she? Okay. For medicine, it is something that medical schools look at they look at very strongly. In dentistry, not so much. So we have to think of how we package that message. In some professional schools, in some professional areas, yes, a gap year is looked at, but it is what you do with it. In others, it is not.
So I'll take the default answer of yes and no. All right, well listen, I very, very humbly thank you guys for the opportunity to come talk to you. I I thank the SMDEP program. I really want you guys to know that Felicity and Dan and everyone here worked super hard to make this come together. You have a gentleman person in Dr. Jackson, who you didn't know, he's like a certified genius. He's a dentist, an anesthesiologist, a PAD pain specialist. And when I got my IV sedation training, every single paper they referenced, every single piece of research had this man's name on it. So you guys are absolutely lucky to have him. Thank you.